Thank you for staying with us on the program. We're just going to put the show on the road right now, and then, of course, we'll get talking with my first guest here. David Maduko is a lawyer and a public affairs commentator. We want to quickly just start talking about the issue of the names that have been released now. I mean, those names that have been submitted to the Senate, and, of course, the screening that has started right now. It started yesterday, of course. It continues into today. As of yesterday, we understand that 10 persons had already been screened. We also know of a few who were told to take a bow. People like the former governor of Benue State, George Akume, and then, of course, his counterpart from Akwa Ibom, talking about Godswill Akpabio, who, of course, I mean, both of them were senators, so they were asked to take a bow. Some Nigerians are questioning the culture of take a bow and go. We'll talk about all of those on the program, but here is David Maduko to join me in making sense of all of these issues. Thank you for coming on the program.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Let's start by looking at, first of all, these lists and all of the issues. You know, Nigerians are already saying, let's not have a repeat of 2015. Let's not wait 5-6 months to have a list of ministers released. So this time it was a bit faster. But some people are still saying, if the president was going to bring on board the same people he had previously, why did he have to take this long? It is something he probably could have done within the first 2 weeks in office.
Exactly. It's something that's worrisome, very worrisome. We have imbibed the culture of impunity to certain tenets and traditions and norms that we should uphold as a country and as a government.
Yeah.
It also brings my mind quickly this issue to the fore on the issue of what sort of government are we really operating. Every opportunity I've had to speak publicly on this, I always say that we have a unique system of government that has no definition. It has no name, because we operated our democracy, or the makeup that looks like democracy, operated the...
So this is not democracy?
It's not really democracy. We operated the parliamentary system of government from the British, which we abandoned in 1966. And we have been mispracticing the federal system of government from 1979 to 1983, and from 1999 till date. We have been mispracticing it seriously. So we don't have I wonder, I find it difficult to put a name to the blend of governance we see in this country. Now, coming back to the issue at hand, we are looking at the ministerial nominees. I thought, and I think any well-meaning person will think, that we should zero in on competence and merit. But what we've seen in this country, not only for ministerial nominees, even a lot of state governors, they take a lot of time to bring out their list of commissioners. And they do it, you know, lackadaisically. Just nothing will happen, and nothing really happens, you know. So we mix politics with governance a lot.
But don't they go hand in hand?
Yes, but for certain categories of actions, you should not let it go hand in hand.
Okay.
A minister for the environment should be somebody that is well versed about environmental issues, should be somebody that has merit to sit in the office as a minister. A minister for education should be somebody that is well grounded in educational issues. We should, at this stage, be putting round poles in round holes, square pegs in square holes. But unfortunately, that has not been the case. Now, you just mentioned the issue of taking a bow. That is something that a lot of us frown at.
But that has been more like something traditional, hasn't it?
Traditional, having its basis and its roots in what? How reasonable is it? You are telling the man that is going to head a parastatal of government to take a bow. We don't know anything about him. He has not been able to defend, to be asked some questions to defend that ministry that he's going to head. And you say take a bow. And you see, we Nigerians, we are just so lax about it. Now, what is the function of government? We have the three arms of government: executive, legislature, and the judiciary. They ought to act as check and balance on each other. What is the function of government? Everybody we saw there yesterday, and I'm sure the ones that are going to come today, our ministers designate nominees that have no portfolio. Ordinarily, I would have expected that the Senate before now, in a joint sitting with the House of Rep, should have sent a strong worded message to the executive, to the presidency, to say, please, we are not going to look at any nominee whose portfolio is not indicated to the name. Because that is how you get, you know, the wholesome evaluation of the person.
Right.
You will not be able to look at, is this person competent for this office? But you leave that blank. That is a serious lacuna that we should, any serious-minded person should question. That is one of the duties of the legislature, to let the executive know that no, there is a mistake here. Go and put the portfolio so that we will be able to properly scrutinize this person and look at his competency and capacity, whether I can hold that office. But we didn't hear that. Rather, we start hearing things like take a bow. What is take a bow? We need to get serious with governance in this country.
But some persons are beginning to argue that for persons like Akpabio and Akume, for example, who themselves had been governors of their respective states, that gives them basis to say, okay, these guys have substantial background in governance, in representing their people, especially when you also look at the fact that they had both been senators up until recently. So it is enough reason to say, okay, take a bow, go, you're good.
I choose to
does that reason check out?
I disagree with that. When you say it's enough reason, the fact that you've headed one arm or department of government before does not mean that you bring the same skills and competence to another one. And that underscores the fact of what I've been saying so far. If we know where Akpabio is going to, if we know the ministry that is going to, we should be able to better evaluate whether this man will perform. We know his qualification. We should know his degree. Forget the fact that he has been a governor or a senator. We should know where he can place his competencies and where he will be able to apply himself more.
Right.
But we don't have that opportunity. We just have people coming and saying, okay, based on the fact that he's been a senator before, he's been a governor before. That is not what we should be doing in this. We should learn to get things right in this country. Do things the proper way it ought to be done. The culture of take a bow, I think we need to take a serious look at it a second time.
Well, whose place will it be to do that? Because these are the same lawmakers who
are
elected to make laws
exactly
for members of the public.
It is their duty. It is their duty.
It's like asking them to be a judge in their own cause, isn't it?
Not really. Not really. Because if you are going to, people are going to come before you to be screened.
Right.
Now, you need to know things about those people. And you need to know where those persons are going to. It's like you are only having the degree and the qualification of these persons, and you don't know where they are going to. So you cannot, it's like you are going into darkness.
That's another point, because when you look at it, questions are almost random. So one person comes, for example, I mean, one of the nominees, and then they are asked questions about health, they are asked questions about the economy, they are asked questions about aviation, they are asked questions about agriculture. Yeah. And there's a pretty good chance that this individual in question, for instance, does not have a handle on all of those areas.
Exactly. Now you are coming to my point.
Yes, the argument along that line obviously is, why don't we streamline? Why don't we have specifics? But it appears it's a culture that's here to stay for a long time to come.
Yes, but some of us are ready to question these things and to the best of our ability fight it. It is wrong. We have elected leaders, elected representatives. They should represent us well. We didn't send them to House of Rep and Senate to be telling people to take a bow. That's not what we sent them there to do. They are to act as check and balance on the executive arm of government. They are not doing so. And what is more baffling, what surprises us more, is not even, I'm sorry to be specific now, it's not even the APC senators or House of Rep members. It is the other minor parties, the PDP, the ABGA, that just coerce along. Those are the ones I do expect that you ask these questions. No, we need Mr. Senate President, sir, or Mr. Speaker, sir, we need to send a message back to the executive to ask what portfolio are these persons going to occupy, so that we'll be better grounded to question them along that line. I expected that question from them, but it's like they all went there to sleep. So they should wake up. We have taken things too for granted in this country.
Let's even look at this cabinet as it stands right now. Yes, the Senate on the one hand is taking out time to screen them and get to, in some cases, as they say, grill them. But whatever it is that they're doing with them now, which of course I started yesterday, more than ever before, this country, President Muhammadu Buhari government needs a vibrant cabinet to be able to push a lot of things through. But it will be very important that you get that cabinet that can deliver. When you look at this crop of persons who have been so nominated now, I mean, some of them already screened or grilled, as the case may be. Do you see these? You see consonance between the next level agenda of this government and this crop of individuals who have been nominated?
Well, there have been a lot of mixed reactions to the personalities of the nominees.
Yeah.
I would not want to dabble into that now. But all I want to say is this. It is unusual, very, very highly unusual. In 2015, witnessed a scenario, a situation where the ministerial nominees came out 6 months late. This now is close to 2 months. And we are seeing repetition of some names. One would expect that when you conduct an election and you win, you should approach your office and state duty, you hit the ground running. And that entails the fact that you should have gotten these persons. You should have, penciled them down before occupying your office. And when it comes to the time to appoint them, you do it like a flash. Look at the UK. Theresa May had just rounded up her tenure as a British PM. Yeah. And Boris Johnson. Boris Johnson, I listened to his speech yesterday and I was marveled. He already had a blueprint on the Brexit issue, and he had already, articulated on so many other issues for the UK. Foreign policies and all that. And that is what we expect from our leaders, naturally. But we don't get that. You have a situation where they get into office and they take months just to create a list. And when the names finally come out, I mean, for crying out loud, sorry I have to say this, but I am a lawyer. For instance, what would somebody like Raji Fashola do in the power sector? He's a very senior lawyer. If you are carrying such a person to the Justice Ministry, we would understand. That is his constituency. And there are so many, plethora of so many other of them, that, we are placed where you begin to wonder. What would they? That's not to say, with due respect to all of them, that's not to say, as a human being, they are not intelligent, they are not articulate, and they can't do things. Overall.
But, overall. But we are talking of core competence now. Core competencies. I was reading the internet the other day. A Nigerian, a medical doctor, for the first time in the history of mankind, performed an operation, brought out the fetus from a pregnant woman, performed an operation on the fetus, and took the fetus back to the stomach of the woman, and the woman delivered normally. For the first time in mankind history. And we don't make inquiries and ask. These are Nigerians. So many others excelling in different fields, in different competencies. We don't bother to ask, to make inquiries. The president has made a statement that I will appoint persons I know, to which I disagree strongly. Okay. Is there a problem with that?
There's a serious problem with that. Because you appoint only persons you know, without due respect. What about those people that are competent?
And you don't know.
And you don't know. You don't make an effort to go out to find out about this person, even though if it means creating a committee, screen this man, find out whether he's qualified for this thing, and present him before the legislators to be screened. I think that should have been a better approach. Because you see, like you said, we are all political animals. There's no way politics will not come into this, in making your choice, making the appointments and all that. But I think in all situations, what they should be guided with, because they took oath of office and oath of allegiance, I think what they should be guided with is, their duty and dedication to the citizens of Nigeria, to the utmost upkeep, to the utmost security of, and in the best interest of the citizens of Nigeria. So when you take decisions and it's not tailored along that line, then one begin to wonder, what kind of leaders do we have? The National Assembly owes a duty to screen every human being sent to them thoroughly. And the sooner they do away with this, culture of taking a bow, the better for Nigerians. We have come to a stage where we should see people that we sent there, that we elected, doing the job we sent them to do. We did not send them to say take a bow. We sent them to send a message to the presidency that, look, go and add the portfolio of these people, send the list back, and thoroughly screen them. And if anyone does not meet up without sentiments, without affiliations, drop that name and put somebody who is competent. That is what Nigeria is at this stage, not politicking.
So some people believe that one of the reasons we find this drag between when a president or a governor gets into office and when they release a list of commissioners or ministers, as the case may be, is because most times they're not even certain they were going to win, get into that office in the first instance. So there's a sort of sporadic, as it were, approach into the office. So you're not certain, you're not convinced you're going to get into that office.
I'm not sure.
You're not really making plans in that direction. Somebody gave an instance. They said, just look at Nigeria, for example, between 1999 and today, especially between 2015 and now, you realize that the governor gets into office and he's crying again and again over what his predecessor had done. He's telling you his predecessor spent 7,000 billion doing this, spent 15 billion doing that. And he's taking time and energy to do all of this. And the people he was elected to serve, as a state governor, for instance, are now wondering, if we do this for another 2 years, how much of time do you have left to sit down to do the business of governance, which is the reason you were elected in the first place?
Exactly.
How do we begin to change that tide? You just made reference to, a very apt reference to the issue of Boris Johnson, who, upon getting into office, told Britons that, look, we are going to have closure to the issue of Brexit by October, whether there's a deal or not. But again, that is a pointer to some systemic dysfunction we're dealing with in this country, isn't it?
Yes, seriously. You see, everything you said, my brother, borders on one thing I've always tried to enunciate here, and that's the issue of what is the sincerity of purpose of our leaders. How sincere are they about leadership? And if I were to grade them, if you ask me, I don't think they just barely made a pass mark. And the mentality of us, the followers, people that are led, is pathetic. Majority of Nigerians, you tar roads, oh, you bring pipe-borne water, oh, it's pathetic. That is their function in government. What are you owing about? That is what we elected them to do. So we already have a skewed mentality about governance. We need a slow reorientation for Nigerians about governance. There are things you should applaud. And there are things you say, well, good, pass mark, but you need to do better. Because of the culture of, we've had governance that have been, I wouldn't want to use the word anti-people, but there have not been any significant progress on the lives of the citizenry. So when we now see the ones trying to do their job now, you find people, applauding and shouting. That is on the one side. On the other side, when I, when I use the word sincerity of purpose, I always make reference to one issue. And I know the issue makes a lot of people in governance very uncomfortable. I make reference to the issue of security vote, and I will keep making reference to it. We are not sincere, starting from the presidency, up to the governors, all. I'm not singling anyone out now. All, they are not sincere. Because if you want to be sincere, the first thing the president should do, by using himself as an example, is to say, I am making public this thing called security vote. There's no secrecy about it. You can even go as far as legislate on it. So and so percentage of this money, you make it public, you make it accountable. That shows sincerity, that shows transparency. That builds the confidence of the people in you. We have used this for, we will see today all over the country we have insecurity. And yet, every month, we have a kind of baffling sum of money that we call security votes that rolls around both the presidency and into the governors and all of them. Yet, we are complaining of insecurity. So, my brother, we have to have sincerity of purpose. The security vote of a team, make it accountable. If people in government actually use half of that amount on security issues, Nigeria will not be where it is today. There's insincerity of purpose. Insincerity of purpose on the part of our leaders.
You know, I was watching this Senator Adeyeye on the floor of Senate talk very passionately about the Constitution and the challenges that we deal with in this country. He said something very striking, and I think it got many people thinking, not just the senators themselves,
yes,
but Nigerians generally. He said the Constitution is our problem. He said until that Constitution, or this our Constitution, is maybe rejigged, it's altered in such a way that it will address essentially fundamental issues, then we can make progress as a country. As a matter of fact, he specifically says this Constitution cannot give us peace, this Constitution cannot give us progress. Do we have constitutional issues with all of this discussion we're having?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, talk to me about those.
What I'll do, I'll give you just 3 examples. The document we have as our Constitution, as the ground norm of our country, is fundamentally flawed. It is a document that we should tear open and deliberate on as a people to agree again that this document will bind us. Like I said, I'll just give you 3 examples. The prologue to the Constitution tells a lie about itself. Say, we the people of Nigeria hereby give unto ourselves. Can you tell me whenever we the people of Nigeria came together? We, in the actual sense of the word, we the people actually came together. That is a lie. Let me leave that. Let me go to the issue of resource control. There has been a burning issue touching on the people of Niger Delta. If you look at the history of resource control in this country, you will find out that it has a skewed history. Time there was that 100% of the proceeds from the producing area goes to them and 0 to the center. Then along the line, the percentage started increasing. Time there was 50-50. 50 to the producing and 50 to the center. Then coming down to the military eras, time there was, it was 0 to the producing, 100 to the center. Then people like them, Abacha and Obasanjo came up, and we've gotten to where we are today, 13% to the producing, and the remaining, you can do the maths yourself, to the center, which, if you look at it, and look at the examples all over the world, from regions that produce the resource, is unreasonable, is wicked, and is unacceptable. We must learn to tell ourselves home truths. Yet, it is embedded in our Constitution. It needs to be looked into. And finally, let me come to a very fundamental and basic one. The legislature is an arm of government. And right there in the Constitution is embedded in it that the affairs for the conduct of affairs in the legislature of Nigeria will be conducted in English language. Quote me, English language, or Hausa, Igbo, or Yoruba, full stop. Is there in the Constitution? Now my question to you is that, how many ethnic groups do we have in Nigeria? What sense of belonging have you given to the Tiv man, to the Isha man, to the Edo man, to the Juku man? You have excluded them. Yes, we agree. Hausa, Igbo, and Yoruba are the main ethnic groups in Nigeria. You have the largest population and all that. But you see, when you want to be fair, fair is fair. And the sooner we start telling ourselves the truth in this country, the better for all of us. Every ethnic group in this country ought to be included inside that document we call our Constitution, to give every ethnicity a sense of belonging. I belong to this project called Nigeria. It's not yet there. So these are just 3 small examples. A lot of other lacunas abound in that document called our Constitution. Now, President Goodluck Jonathan did something. He did a confab, called persons together, they sat down, they looked at some of these problems. they preferred solutions. They came out with recommendations and a white paper. Ask me, between me and you, where is that paper today? We have a government in place. Have they picked it up? Is it not lying in dust somewhere? Sincerity of purpose. We come back again in governance. That's where we are getting it wrong.
Okay, let's see something else that is probably also wrong. At least that is not sitting properly in the heads of most Nigerians. You have a cabinet, because that's really the focus for our discussion. You have a cabinet, and of course you have ministers in that cabinet. You have ministers who have done so much, they've accomplished so much in the private sector and the public sector, and some of them are even invited from abroad to, come back home and be part of government. The idea is, come contribute your quota to your fatherland.
Exactly.
But then you see these people are almost redundant within the cabinet, and you're wondering, this is somebody who has accomplished so much in private sector, both at home and abroad. How come by the time this person joins the government, it's as if their hands are tied, it's as if they've been muzzled up and so on and so forth. But we're just going to take a break quickly now and then find a way to push this conversation a bit further. Stay with us.
TMI, every opinion counts.
So help me make sense of that quickly, David. The fact that somebody who has performed so well for coming to government joins cabinet, and then you're not seeing so much happening from their end. And an example before now was the Minister of Trade and Investments, Mr. Nelama, who is believed to have done so much in the private sector. But a lot of Nigerians were raising eyebrow while he was in the saddle as Minister of Trade and Investment, as to say, we're not seeing so much happening along that line. We should be finding so much of traction. When we talk about FDI, foreign direct investment, for example, it was as if we're not doing so well along that line at the time. So it raises the question of, how can I be doing so much in the public sector, private sector, or even as an individual, sometimes even abroad, and then I join this cabinet? It's as if there are so many things I cannot accomplish. Is that a matter of bureaucracy, red tapeism?
It's an infection in the system. The system is infected. And so when you get involved with the system, you get the infection, except you are a very strong-willed person, and except you are a person who is ready to say, okay, at this point, I'm ready to tender my resignation and not do this.
Do we have many Nigerians who think?
We don't so much. But along the line of history, we've seen one or two. I can put a name. Late Dr. Dora Akinyuli was one of such personalities that said, despite the odds, to hell with the odds. And she did her job to the best of her ability. And there are so many people who believe that it was part of doing her job that took her life today. So how many Nigerians do we have of that make? The late reggae maestro, Robert Nesta Marley, said, emancipate yourself from mental slavery. As you get into the system, it's like you are into mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our mind. Yourself, you are the only one who can free yourself. So how many Nigerians of that makeup, of that mold do we have? There are very few. The system is infected. The system is decayed. The system has its rules and regulations. And if you want to make a change, an impact on the society, you do not have to go according to the system. I don't have to give example of what we are even witnessing recently. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. Going against the system brings a lot of friction. And you must be strong-willed to do what is right and get the right results.
Okay, let me just quickly also acknowledge someone who just joined us for this discussion this morning, Honorable Friday Ogira, he Esquire, the lawyer, former member, Edo State House of Assembly. Thank you for coming on.
It's a pleasure to be back here.
I'm just going to make you lend your voice to this one very quickly. I was talking to David already before you showed up, and then we've talked about a lot regarding this list and the screen that has started. But ultimately, what we're looking at is having a vibrant, goal-oriented, result-oriented cabinet in place. That's the ultimate goal. But then again, a lot of persons would say the buck does not stop with the ministers. The buck actually stops with the president. Yes, the minister may be well-meaning. The minister may have good intentions. Yet, as I say, last, it is the president who is the one with whom the buck stops. So how much of challenge does that, as it were, limitation pose for us as a country?
Well, let me start by saying that if you see the ministerial list, before it was released, and now that it is released, now that the screening is going on, these are all familiar experiences that we have had as a people. And putting it another way is still the same old circle show, merry-go-round. There's nothing unusual, there's nothing so extraordinary about it, there's nothing so unique about it. It's still the way it has always been. And that being the case, you must be familiar with the phrase, as it were, that says when you continue to do a certain act in a particular way and manner, you do not expect a different result. So that there isn't so much that one perhaps will look up or look forward to as an expectation from the fact that, oh, we are going to have a new cabinet constituted, federal cabinet constituted in the no distant future. There's no expectation, because actually there ought to be real optimism that, oh, now that we are having a brand new, as it were, cabinet, commencing or signaling the commencement of a new tenure, perhaps a second tenure for Mr. President, that things, of course, are going to be done differently in a way that will bring about positive results. But like I said before, not many Nigerians, will hold that kind of expectation, because like I said, it is the same old way. It is like putting a new wine in an old wine skin. So, having said that, you also want to take note of the fact that what appears so outstanding in the consideration of who made the list for Mr. President are essentially more than 60% of the factor that was considered is partisanship and patronage.
But is that not what we have always done in this country?
That is the point I'm making. That is the point I'm making. That ordinarily, it ought to be, we want to see some kind of innovation. We want to see some kind of put an assemblage of a team that is prepared to deliver on a specific program of action. But even though you also will agree with me that for this government, we do not really have a particular policy trust that we can put our hands on, except about making rhetorics of slogans like we are next level, we are going to fight corruption, we have zero tolerance to corruption. These are not the kind of well thought out program of action that a party and a government will put in place as whether middle way plan or long-term program of action, for which you will now have to not look at the human capacity that you need to drive that kind of program of action or policy trust, as to be able to bring about the desired transformation in a particular country like ours in Nigeria. So it is not sufficient to engage in mere ceremony, in mere rituals, because I see what has happened as another hollow ritual by government to fulfill all righteousness. For the purpose that, it is required that the cabinet be formed, that ministers be nominated. But I believe that it ought to go a lot more than that, deeper than that, in content and in the general framework that we have not seen, as to give hope, as to give birth to that kind of expectation. Let me say all the ailing problems,
yes,
all the areas, sector by sector, that require critical intervention, that you are going to have the round pegging, round holes
The PDP, let me tell you what the PDP is saying now. The PDP says this is not a ministerial list. It is a campaign team. Help me make sense of that. Isn't that politics taking to
well, you see, that is the point I made. That essentially what is apparent, what anybody may not deny, not even Mr. President, is the fact that it is like a thank you list to those who made it happen. It's like a reward scheme for people who were able to deliver on the second term aspiration of Mr. President. That is what the list is all about. You know, nobody really will have so much quarrel with the fact that, oh, Mr. President has had to do with appreciating members of his party by way of giving them ministerial slot. But what we are talking about here is about what have you hired these people for? What is it that they are going to do differently as to be able to solve the endemic problem that we have always faced in this country? You want to talk about power, you want to talk about energy as it were, you want to talk about corruption, anti-corruption, you want to talk about having to a proper system, a democracy that runs on the rule of law. You know, so all of that ought to have been settled first. You don't put the cart before the horse. It's not sufficient to just say, oh, my party members, oh, it's not time to eat, because this is like an invitation to come and eat. You know, like what the latest on the Afolabi was quoted as saying about Bola. He said the man will invite to come and eat. So it's still the same come and eat arrangement. There was an allusion that David made before you came. He talked about how that the president had always said he would not appoint anyone he's not familiar with. So he wanted to appoint people he knew. So isn't that justification? Well, I have, see, we may not have so much justification quarreling with the choice of people that the president has selected. Right. And I also want to believe that, with due respect to Mr. President, without holding brief for him anyway, that he didn't do this all alone. I believe that there were contributions from his party leaders across the state, in terms of recommendation, even which is also not wrong. Which is also not wrong. So he perhaps may not singularly say, "Oh, I drew up this list." Yes, it is important that Mr. President should work with people that he is familiar with. It is important. You will also note that in the fact that about the 32 or 34 ministers that he worked with in the first tenure, but I think only 14 of them were removed from the list. So that has to do with the fact that, oh, let me continue with these people that I already know. I'm bringing in some other people from the party that are probably, but that is not the quarrel at all. I think the issue for me really is that we should stop this whole thing, this whole drama about mere ceremonies of fulfilling all what you may call all righteousness in the nomination that because it is required that you should do so. But I'm saying, what is the program of action for which you have selected? You looking at even private business concern, you know the kind of person you are going to hire in your business enterprise to help you deliver on the object of that business. And that is what a governor should be. The same kind of mindset and methodology. That is what a serious business, like a governance of a nation, should be all about. It's not just about bringing people together for what you may call a tea party. That is not it. It goes beyond that. You must have a projection. So I've mentioned the fact that it is not enough for you to make slogans about what is it called now, next level. What next level are we going to? We in the first tenure of Mr. President, the slogan, the mantra of that time was change. We want to change, and you put all sorts of people on board. You know, there were brilliant minds there that you cannot deny. There were brilliant minds. You want to talk about the achievement, the revolution that somebody like Fashola did in Lagos, and there was expectation that he was going to also bring that same thing when he was now giving about he was a super minister. He was a super minister, and you know a lot of people quarreled with the fact that there ought to be some kind of unbundling.
Yes. Instead of
putting all of that together. So that is where we want some kind of ingenuity in the nomination and perhaps eventual appointment of ministers. You need some kind of ingenuity. You need to look at the mental capacity. You need to look at all the what's it called now? What a person that is fit to deliver on a particular vision. So when you do things whimsically, in the way it appears now, it will seem that you do not really have a particular vision or intention to deliver on any serious program of action. Right. Because if that forms the basis, if that is a function in your consideration of who become a minister, you will be more circumspect. You will not pander to primordial sentiment. You will not pander to partisan emotion, as we have seen now. Because to deliver on a particular assignment, you require capacity. I am not saying that, oh, these people that have been nominated, they are not capable or that they are incompetent. But I am saying that we must put the horse before the cart. We must first have a program of action, and then you now have people that will deliver on them. You know, another thing that we seem not to have also corrected, for which perhaps we thought the president will correct himself with this nomination, right, will be that as you are submitting their names, you already allotted portfolios to them, yeah, so that it will give the senators an enlightening information to be able to drill and grill the nominees based on the particular assignment or portfolio that the person will be handling for the country. But now you have led them to go to sail without such enablement. You know, so it boils down again to what I said from the very beginning, that we are doing this thing merely as a ritual, a holy ritual for that matter, because it is a necessity.
Let's begin to talk about how we can make it something more than a ritual, because that's one way we can make it effective. But let me talk to David about that quickly. There's a whole lot of work up front for these governments. You can't take it out of the way. There's the insecurity issue, not just in the Northeast alone now, across this country. Of course, you have the short to medium-term goal of government, ERGP, the Economic Recovery Growth Plan. That is supposed to be an initiative to help correct a lot of economic anomalies and so on and so forth, and reposition the economy as we know it. With this list that we have seen now, with all of these individuals being screened, can we beat our chest and say we're looking forward to sound, vibrant, result-oriented cabinets to help pull all of these things off?
I hope. I seriously hope. If you ask me personally, I will tell you that my expectations were dampened when I saw the list. My expectations, I like to be very blunt. I expected another mixture. I expected, you know, another set of, if you like, technocrats, bureaucrats, who were specialists in their field. But we saw a repetition of most of the same names, like my colleague has said. A repetition of most of the same names. Yes, there was a sprinkling of some women, maybe about their 30% affirmative action, I don't know. But there was sprinkling of women, you know, some women there. It's basically the same old story. And if we are going to judge from our past, where we are coming from, I think we would not be expecting anything new. I expected some injection of fresh young blood in this whole thing. From my investigation, I think Mr. Festus Kayambo is the youngest person there.
Of all of them?
Of all of them. He's about 50 years.
Yes.
And
some people say that's even not young enough, in the real sense of young, even though that's again relative.
That's not young enough. There are a lot of younger, bright and forward, mobile youth that are in charge of their disciplines.
Right.
So what has been done has been done. We are looking at moving forward from there. We have always said that leadership is something that should build the confidence of the followership. That is why today, I read in the papers that Lateef Jakande is celebrating 90 years. That is why today, when you mention names like Lateef Jakande, you see that people also smile with nostalgia, because they remember the development that came with that name. In Benin, Edo State, even the old Bendel, once you mention Samuel Ogbemudia, it evokes some feeling that, yes, we saw the dividends of leadership from this name. Not going too far, even the late Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, for the short time he was alive, for the short time he was in leadership, we saw something. In the cabinet of Goodluck Jonathan, you had that young man who was Minister of Agriculture, I think Akim Umi or so.
Yes.
And we saw the revolution.
President of FDB.
Yes, we saw the revolution in the agric sector. These things they are not magic. You see them. The leadership goes with the personality, and it goes with the office. It goes with the ministry. It goes with that body that you head. You understand me? Look at Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. Look at where we stood with our debt. Look at what they did. Time there was, Obasanjo was president, our debts got wiped out. Totally. Somebody was able to engineer that process. Somebody was able to midwife and see that process to fruition. That is what we are talking about, leadership. When you are there, you should not advertise yourself. It is not about names. It's not about being former senator or former governor. No. It's about what you can bring to bear in that office. How would it impact on the life of the citizenry? That's what we are talking. How many of them really on that list will perform these things? How many of those names has the presidency painstakingly done their due diligence on? Gone to find out what is this man's competence, what is merit, what is he qualified on, what achievements have they had? We are not talking now about being governor, no. What achievements? Coming to what Mr. Friday said, the portfolio is not there, so you are not even able to properly put it in a microscopic view to say, okay, vis-a-vis this portfolio, how will this person's competence play out? You are not able to do it properly. So the whole thing is a charade. You have to go back to the drawing board. Like I say, and I'm re-emphasizing, sincerity of purpose in governance is very essential. When the government start to do these things, you do not need to whip up sentiments. You do not need to go into making adverts on TV or radio or jingles. The people will see the sincerity of purpose in your governance. When you start doing things rightly, the way it ought to be done, you don't need to tell people. It sells itself. You already mentioned the fact that we don't have, we virtually don't have youths in this list. But no, we don't. Let me talk to Friday about that again. Women. Women are also saying you don't have enough of, I mean, they're not adequately represented. Yes, as far as this list is concerned. Women are getting more brilliant by the day. Women are getting more goal-oriented by the day. Women are heading corporations, home and abroad, and they are doing a whole lot like their male counterparts are also accomplishing. Is it not time we started looking at bringing more women, maybe many more women on board, to change the narrative for the better for this country?
Well, that is where I differ.
Okay.
I'm not giving to some kind of sentiments about sex, about age, when it comes to responsibility or giving out responsibility.
Or leadership generally.
Leadership, as it were. I'm not giving to it. I believe that merit should be of topmost priority.
Okay.
Be you a man or a woman, notwithstanding. It might sound or look as if perhaps women are being discriminated against. But on the whole, you will agree with me that some women made that list. And if you come back to where I started, when I talked about the fact that I believe this whole list wasn't made alone by Mr. President.
That some governors would have contributed.
Governors, party leaders,
yes,
interest, influential people and all that. They all contributed to it. So there were states that included women in their own nomination. Or recommendation, as it were.
Right.
So, and as we have it today, some of these women say true or skate through. If in Edo, for instance, where you have the fortune of having two ministerial nominees, you may want to go and cross-check whether any woman was nominated from this state. If no woman was nominated from this state, you cannot now blame it on Mr. President that women did not make, sufficient women did not make the list. But the hard truth for me is the role that merit has to play. It's about merit. It's not about having youthful people. Youthfulness alone does not amount to capability to deliver. I believe in capacity. I'm a great fan of somebody like Donald Trump, the president of America. He shows energy. He shows vision.
Even in his 70s.
Even in his 70s. That's an old man. By our standard, by every standard.
Right.
But has age had any restriction on his capacity to deliver? No. The answer is a clear no. So it is about looking at the profile of everybody. Looking at it from the point of view of merit, capability, competence. Not about whether the person is youthful, not about whether the person is a woman or a man. It's about the capacity to deliver. Because governance is a serious business.
Right.
It is not an art of embroidery, as it were, or a tea party. It calls for seriousness. You do not go to bring in sentiment about, oh, why are your people not on the list? The ministerial.
Are you by any way implying that young people cannot be serious with governance?
No, that is not the point. That is not the point at all. If a young person is capable and deserving,
okay, merit again.
Merit is what you count in all of this. Not whether, the man is 80 years old or the man is 40 years old. Because we have seen how that has failed. In fact, it's a huge fallacy.
But sir, the president himself had said he probably would do even much more if he had been younger, if he had come into office as a younger person. Doesn't that say something about the advantage he gets?
The man is talking about himself.
So that's unique to him.
It's peculiar to him. He knows himself.
Okay.
And in fact, given that consideration, if honesty is anything to go by, Mr. President would have told himself the truth by not even seeking a second term in office.
Okay.
If he was serious and honest about that statement, that I would have done a lot better. Because he is telling us that age has become a burden, a drag on him and his capacity to deliver. But there are persons who are of that same age that you would not be able to decipher whether they are actually because they said that youthfulness is a state of the mind. Youthfulness is a state of the mind. You still see somebody like President Obasanjo, moving all about, still getting involved, still having time to write a series of letters. You want to read through his letter, there's hardly anything you can fault in those letters.
In fact, enough time to sit down to write for a PhD.
There's still so much of a reflection of his better capacity in the wordings of the letters.
Right.
So it is not about age, it's not about sex. The thing for me is that this is the time this country must put merit as a bar, must put merit as a standard. It is not about, this man is of this tribe, this other man is of this sex, this other woman is of that sex. It is not about that. So long as we continue in that direction, to that extent shall we be in this state of arrested development, if not retrogression. Because Nigeria, seriously speaking, when they came with change that time, and they assembled some band of ministers, things, if we must tell ourselves the truth, critical areas suffer debilitating setbacks, where we have made serious gain under the previous regime of Jonathan, suffers debilitating setbacks. You want to talk about the power sector, you want to talk about the security sector, you want to talk about even the economy. The economy suffered a serious bash. It got to a point people could no longer afford basic necessities of life. And we still have it today. As a good example would be you know, the way prices of aesthetic commodity, basic commodities skyrocketed out of control without government showing serious concern. And whereas we have ministers all over the place. So we were expecting, or our expectation perhaps would have been that, which is not so much of a disappointment,
right,
would have been that all of these things will be taken into cognizance. You know, you see the way the insecurity problem of this country is deteriorating by the day. What is the policy drive? And who is that man with that will and capacity and competence, whether a man or a woman, that you can entrust with the security of this country, either by way of appointment as a Minister of Defense or other associated security ministries? Who is that man on this list? How is Mr. President going to fill in that gaping hole? Because it shows that if we still are battling by the day with the issue of security, it shows that we have had bad handlers. So it is something that we expect. Maybe when they eventually now come out with their portfolios, that perhaps the right man will be put in the Ministry of Defense. You know, you talk about what we call now the issue of rule of law.
Right.
It's critical to development. We can't continue to have an Attorney General of a federation that will advise the government to continue to disobey laws. Many lives recently were lost in Abuja, arising from the fact that we have not given room to the rule of law, which is an essential ingredient of democracy.
That's an apparent. That's an apparent reference to the El Zakzaky case.
Exactly what I'm talking about. Where even a senior police officer was cut down, a youth corporal was cut down, and several people died. And what is not being denied today? The fact that there have been a court order saying that this El Zakzaky should be released on bail.
But the presidency is explaining that that judgment was appealed.
It does not have to stay.
Whether the judgment was appealed or not.
That's the reason being advanced by the presidency for not releasing El Zakzaky and his wife.
Well,
good thing is you both are lawyers.
Yes.
Yes.
You see whether you are what has the order for bail has it been stayed? Because an appeal by itself does not automatically run as a stay. I think they are being clever by half when you continue to give impression that because we are they are trying to justify their lawlessness. And you cannot have a lawyer as an Attorney General that will not have the courage and the faithfulness to the oath he has taken as a lawyer to advise that court orders must be obeyed. Because if you also want to take into the cognizance of the fact that the sentiment of the people also matters. Overwhelmingly, we are seeing an increasing protest by followers of this sect, insisting, asking that the fundamental right of this man be obeyed. And it's a constitutional right. The presumption of innocence that endures to the benefit of every person that is accused of a crime. You are accused of a crime does not mean that you are guilty of the crime. There is a presumption of innocence. And when a man already is in jail for a number of years without being released on bail, despite a pending court order, an extant court order, you are endangering democracy. You are giving room to anarchy, to reign, and that is what we are seeing. And that boils down on the man that you have entrusted the Ministry of Justice into his hand. Because we want to see a day when a federal, an attorney general from any state or the federation will say, because you have disobeyed this court order, because I have advised you on the contrary, and you did not heed to my advice, I hereby tender my resignation. When that is done, yes, then we cannot excuse you. Interestingly, David here had already made an allusion to that. I mean, where you have the willpower, that was the word he used. Say you have to be strong-willed enough. But as we wrap up now this discussion, David, most people are of the belief, in fact, conviction that if there's no patriotism, these ministers are being screened now, these ministerial nominees, will not be able to accomplish much because they have to be patriotic. They have to understand that in the final analysis, they are serving Nigerians, not just Mr. President. Even though he is actually the one nominating them, he's the one, I mean, he's the one actually giving them, saddling them with this responsibility. But ultimately, they are serving Nigerians. And one way they can make that happen is to be patriotic enough. But it will appear patriotism is in short supply in this country now, isn't it?
Yes, that's why I say it's a personal challenge on them. I'm happy we are throwing up these issues in a program like this. It's a personal challenge on them. They have to set their own, agenda for themselves, and they have to be up and doing to create their own record and their own image. And they should also try and, shift away from the ordinary, from what obtains ordinarily. I was very fascinated about my brother, what he was saying here. I want to also, just quickly draw a line and say, well, to the extent that he has stated a general principle, the issue of merit, yes. When you're talking generally, that's general. But that's applicable to this country called Nigeria, this contraption, political contraption. I disagree with him seriously. The youth will come out to fight. They are saying the youth of tomorrow, youth of tomorrow. If you go for the general position that is talking of merit and capacity, which is true, yes, in other developed climes, yes, that can hold. Not in Nigeria. These people are not ready to give it to you if you don't fight for it. So by the time we continue to sleep and say, yes, and we continue to sleep for it and say, no, because of merit and competence. I tell you, my brother, there are many young people who are competent and they have merit. Because they are shut out by the system. Because they are shut out because you see they have already done the system in such a way that you can't bring them in. And that's why I'm impressed that the youth are showing more interest.
And they're becoming more visible.
Yeah, they love this dispensation. There are some deputy governors are 40-something. This dispensation. If you go to other countries like, I think Botswana, there's a minister there that she's 29 years. In Botswana, a minister. And she's capable. And I'm also happy that it's going around both administratively and all that. For example, I know that the chief tax officer of this state is a young man in his 40s. So you see, the youth have to fight to come into leadership. In the last presidential election, there were so many young them, Duro Toye and all them. You see, they are not coming out. Because I tell you, even he is seated here, he won't tell himself the truth. We've been hearing this since we were in primary school, through secondary school, all in the same leadership, in the same presidency. Now we are fathers, we have children, we are still hearing those names. And what do you say? That we should just sit down.
No, nobody.
No. That should seem to be. He was saying that.
That's a gross. Being a youth is a thing of the mind.
So
yes, beyond age, capacity, and sex. That is looking at merit and capacity.
That is the phrase that they've used to sugarcoat us.
No.
Thing of the mind. No. They have done their part. They should live there. It is time the youth should take over.
And it's time we live here too.
And it's time we live here too.
That time is fast running out. I want to thank especially my two guests, both of them are very articulate lawyers on the program this morning, helping us to beat into context this very topical issue about not just the list of nominated individuals for ministerial positions, but the screening that has started and ultimately their capacity to be able to deliver depending on the portfolios the president will eventually assign them. David Maduko, legal practitioner, thank you for coming.
Thank you, my pleasure.
And of course, former member of the House of Assembly as well as a lawyer, Friday Ogera. We also appreciate your presence.
Thank you.